Hello and welcome everyone. This is Curtis here. I have opened the virtual queue just a couple of minutes early, so we'll give all of you folks a couple of minutes to trickle in, get those calendar invites, settle down, grab a comfy spot, and yeah, we'll get going at the top of the hour. So 8 p.m. my time, 2 minutes, and whatever time it is, wherever you are. So I'll be talking to you very soon. Uh, all right. Hello, howdy, hi, and welcome everyone. A big hearty greeting all the way from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, where it is still a little chilly, but it is warming up. I did go for a run in shorts and a t-shirt today, so things are looking up. New year, new things are happening. Spring is near. I guess maybe for you guys in the Southern Hemisphere, it's the opposite, but regardless, the Replicon family is all here today to enjoy one of our new webinar features where we dive a little bit deeper into, well, the Replicon platform and show you what is new and happening with the platform itself. So today's focus is going to be leveraging time tracking to recover the lost business momentum that a lot of organizations faced last year. And I guess I should probably also introduce myself while we're at it. My name is Curtis Dohaniak, and I am a product expert with Replicon. And today I am going to be your guide and host on our feature webinar presentation. So this is going to be different than maybe some of the previous webinars you experienced a little bit earlier. So earlier today for me, yesterday for you folks, we covered a more generic overview of the platform and kind of showed everyone what was happening and how it all fits together. But today, since you guys are customers, you know exactly what's already happening with Replicon. So we want to show you the new, we want to show you the revolutionary, and we want to get you excited and maybe help you discover a few new ways that you can enhance your usage of our platform. So we're going to be doing a little bit deeper of a dive. It's not actually going to be quite as long as our traditional overviews because we're just focusing on those new features. And then we'll have a little bit more time at the end. If you have any questions, I might be able to do some live configurations and show you everything in action. So it's going to be a little bit more relaxed today. I don't have to race through everything. We just have some time to really focus on what is new and different and help all of you guys really enhance your usage of the Replicon platform. So here is a quick overview of our agenda today. We're going to do a quick overview. I know you guys all know who we are, but a refresher never hurt. And then we are going to take a look at all the new enhancements in a quick demo. Afterwards, we're going to take a look at a few customer examples. And then finally, we will finish off with that Q&A with every one of you folks. So just a couple of housekeeping notes before we continue. If you've been to one of these webinars, you know the drill. You will be on mute throughout the presentation, but don't worry. If you have any questions that pop into your brain at any point in time, feel free to submit them in the question box at the bottom of your screen. Yes, I am pointing at the bottom of the screen. You can't see it, but I am. And I will get to them all at the end of the webinar. Now, that being said, maybe a little bit later, you're settling down, having a coffee or a tea, eating a snack, and for some curious reason, Replicon pops into your brain. You don't know why, but it happens. The mind works in mysterious ways. That is okay too. you can always get in touch with me, or of course, your CSM. They're going to know your organization inside and out. So they will probably be able to answer your questions a little bit more accurately and in depth than I can, but you can always get in touch with us and we'll always be able to help you out. And finally, if there are any imminent disasters, maybe my screen turns black, you cannot hear my voice anymore, or I get sucked into a void, please do not hesitate to raise your hand and then submit a question. And then I will know there is something very dire happening and I'll get everything back on track so everyone can enjoy the webinar. So at Replicon, we believe that people's time is a strategic asset. And not only is it a strategic asset, but it is your most important asset. Time is finite. There is only so much of it available. And once you have used it up, it is gone. You cannot get it back. So you need to make sure that you're treating this time like the precious, precious resource that it is. And exactly how much time do you have at your disposal? Well, that depends on the size of your organization. With 500 employees, you'll have 1.04 million hours available in a year. 5,000 employees, that bumps up to 10.4 million hours annually. And with 50,000 employees, you're going to have 104 million hours at your disposal. And that is so much time. It's almost unfathomable how much time that really is. And it is definitely too much for one employee or one department even to manage on their own. And what makes this time so difficult to manage? Well, one reason it is fragmented and tedious. We have so many moving parts of our ecosystems. We have ERP, CRM, project management, PSA, HCM, and payroll. And as you can see with Frankie, our poor Franken system here, not every piece necessarily fits so well together. And then to compound matters even further right now, we have on-premises data and databases and on-premises hardware. And let's just say not every single person is working on premises. So this means accessing our information can be so difficult. We're pulling spreadsheets. We're trying to decipher what is relevant, what is accurate. And that is just not a way to make big decisions for an organization. And this can cause, well, many challenges to say the least. You might have recognized these before you used Replicon, but with these fragmented time systems, we have billing delays, low utilization rates, revenue leakages, invoicing errors, inability to plan to capacity, decreased profitability, future pipeline, and growth. These are all things that we want to avoid. And what doesn't change in an organization is that everybody needs to use time in some way, shape, or form. Whether you're a finance leader, you're an operations leader, a delivery leader, resource manager, billing leader, HR leader, the list goes on, you will need time to do your job correctly. Now, although these reasons for needing that time information will change, what doesn't change is that you need to be accurate, consistent, and you need to be able to pull this information wherever and whenever you need it. And of course, as you have all experienced, this is what Replicon is. It is the time intelligence platform, and it is your powerful platform for all time tracking needs. So you've probably already experienced this quite a bit, and I'm going to say this more than a few times today, but our platform is just so configurable. There is so much that is always changing and evolving to ensure that we are able to adapt our platform to meet every single one of your needs. And that's what the webinar is about today. We're going to show you some new configurations that we have adapted into our platform. And on top of being configurable, we are scalable. So whether you are that 10 employee startup or that 100,000 employee established organization or that 1 million employee behemoth, we can always grow and evolve with you. So you will always be sure that Replicon can fit into your ecosystem, as you are probably experiencing right now. And on top of that, we are global and secure. So no matter where you have employees in this big blue planet of ours, we will have a Replicon instance that is set up for all their specifications, including locations, languages, currencies, time zones, holiday schedules, payrolls, the list goes on. And we know that security is a top priority for every organization, and it is our top priority too. So we want to make sure your data is your data. So we ensure that every single piece of Replicon is secure at all times, and we meet the highest security standards in the industry. And on top of being global, we are mobile. So we have built our mobile app from the ground up to ensure that you are able to track your time wherever you are. We know that waiting till you get home, sitting in front of a desktop, and then logging your time is never going to be as accurate, and you're not getting that real-time feed of everything that has happened during the day. So by making our mobile app intuitive, easy, and accessible, we ensure that you are able to track this information wherever you go. We also like to sprinkle some artificial intelligence throughout our platform, and this really just ensures that all these processes are streamlined and efficient. We have things like our chatbot that can answer your questions. We have our smart approval processes that allow you to automatically approve timesheets in tandem with our validation rules and our permissions, and just really streamline processes for everyone, whether you are an end user or an administrator. And finally, we'll explore this a little bit today too, but we are plug and play, which means we can get your information where it needs to go. And that information that you need to get to Replicon can be transferred in with ease. We play well with any ecosystem and we are bilateral. So that means you can get your information wherever it needs to go. We don't want to create those data silos. We just want to be cohesive in your ecosystem. And as you've already experienced, Replicon is a comprehensive suite that is made up of multiple solutions. So you might be using one, a couple, or maybe all of these different solutions to make up your suite. And that's the beauty of Replicon is these can be added or subtracted whenever you need them. So maybe you started with time and billing, and then you quickly realized, you might want to add the global paid time off solution or some more workforce management. We can always work with you to help you grow your Replicon experience to really make sure it is meeting all of your needs. And that's again why we're here today. We're going to explore some of the new features with Replicon and hopefully unleash some new potential in your Replicon platform. So here's a quick look of some of the new enhancements that we're going to be taking a look at. We're going to look at our new configurable time tracking enhancement with our intelligent timesheets and approvals. We're going to take a peek at our enhanced time off processes. We're going to demonstrate our faster search for rates, time off, and more. We are going to view the wonderfully simplified administration board, as well as witness our flexible, scalable, and global cloud platform in action. So without further ado, I will just switch my screen over and we will hop into the platform. So we know a lot of organizations were really disrupted by the changes that happened last year, and they continue to be. There's a lot of digitizing and adapting. And if you were already with Replicon, we know that you are set to go, but we want to ensure that you're not only set for things that have happened now, but ensure you are set for any of these changes in the future. So our goal at Replicon is to always innovate and evolve and make sure our platform is changing with the times and always meeting all of your complex and diverse needs. So that is what first and foremost caused us to change how we can manage these timesheets. So there are a few new additions that really make managing timesheets simple and efficient for every single person in your organization. So for many organizations, even just switching through your projects, tasks, and clients can be, a task in itself. If you have thousands of job codes, trying to locate exactly what you're looking for can be difficult. So we wanted to lessen this burden on everyone and make these timesheets super easy to fill out. So first and foremost, you can always type to search. So if I know exactly what I'm looking for, I can fill in all my information here, and that will populate any applicable projects or clients in this instance. But maybe I have 1,000 different job codes and I'm not sure exactly which one I'm looking for. I have a general idea, but I'd like to narrow things down a little bit further. So now we can actually create these advanced search filters that narrow the field that really allow you to hone in on exactly what you're looking for. And in tandem with the permissions that we already have in place, this is going to really allow you to locate exactly the project that you need with ease. So for example, I'm out of Calgary, so I'm looking for the project out of Calgary. Yes. And you know what? It was Big Game Inc. and financial data reporting fixes. I was tasked to work on implementation. And there we go. I was able to locate this with the help of that search filter and really find the projects and tasks that I personally was working on. And this will automatically start populating this timesheet page, and I can choose a billable rate if applicable, as well as an activity. And from here, I can start logging my hours. Now, maybe I am working on this project, but I have different tasks that I'll be working on or different activities, and I want to be able to edit these quickly without going through that whole process, searching through everything again. Now we can actually duplicate this whole line. So we have our duplicate row option here, and now it'll populate without any time entered. And instead of meeting, maybe I worked on some coding, and I can continue to log my hours this way. Now, similarly, maybe this week I'm working on the exact same things as last week, and I don't want to be entering these time entries over and over and over again. Now we also have the ability to overwrite this timesheet with a couple of different options. So we can allocate these timesheet hours if we're using a time distribution grid, and that will automatically allocate our daily regular time, overtime, and double time automatically, so our payroll doesn't have to worry about that. We can also allocate all of these hours with our previous timesheet, excluding time data or including that time data. So this will just kind of reload what we did last week, cover over everything, or it will just reload the tasks, clients, and projects, and then we can enter our time information, or we can overwrite this with our scheduled hours. So again, we have all the options that we need to really make this time entry easy for every single person involved. And now, what you may also notice is that this timesheet looks a little bit different than our traditional time distribution grid. There have been these interesting check marks here. And so this is actually one of our new functions. This is our Agile timesheets. And this is really to help you differentiate what your time is being used for. So traditionally with Replicon, you could activate a weekly timesheet period, a bi-weekly, bi-monthly. You could do monthly, you could do daily. You could really create any timesheet period that made sense for your organization. But this led to a few difficulties for some organizations. For example, if they were billing daily for a project, even if they had those daily timesheets, they were still submitting everything in one big group. And this would include all that time that was being used towards tasks that weren't billable. So this made it difficult for people to parse through all the different sections of time that they had. I do see your question. We have lots of time today, so I can actually answer this right now. Quick question: will these new features automatically apply and available to our Replicon instance? There's a few things that I'll cover at the end, but there's probably a couple of switches that you'll have to check off and a couple of things that you'll have to change on the back end. You can either get in touch with us and your CSM and they'll help you out with that, but I'll show you a quick kind of easy route that might work. But if you've created certain timesheets, then there will be some switches that we might have to turn on the back end, but we'll cover that at the very end. So now that we have these Agile timesheets, we can actually submit all of these time entries on a one-to-one basis. So I'm going to give you an example of that right away here. So maybe today I did work on that project implementation. I had a couple of different activities that I was working on, but I also did work on some administrative tasks. I did some recruitment, and this is non-billable, definitely not billable to Big Game Inc., but I did work for 2 hours on that today. Now, I obviously want to submit this for billing because we are billing Big Game Inc. on the daily, and we want to make sure this information gets where it needs to go right away. So after I have worked these 4 hours, I can uncheck all the boxes that don't need to be submitted. And from here, I can go ahead and submit this time entry right off the bat. I do see your other question, Bob. Oh, cheers. Thanks. Yeah, don't worry. I'll cover it a little bit more in the end, but just going to try to go through everything for everyone first. And then, yeah, we'll cover the rest of the questions at the end here. So once I have selected these boxes, I am able to submit these for time entries, and these will go to my project manager or whatever approval route I have chosen, and they will be able to approve those entries separately. Now, still, we have this whole timesheet to look at as a whole. So now we kind of have two different entities within each timesheet. We have our time entries, which will be going towards projects, and that at the end of the week, I still need to get paid, right? So we still need to account for all the hours I have worked, and I will submit this timesheet, and this will go through a different approval path. So we can actually set up two different approval paths depending on what I'll be submitting. So we can have one approval path for those time entries and one approval path for those time entries to ensure that everyone gets this information when they need it. Now that we also have these different timesheet entries and timesheet approval paths, we also want to ensure that validation rules are still in place because, well, just because they're time entries doesn't mean we don't want them to be accurate. That's the idea behind Replicon, is we want everything to be accurate and clean so that you can trust all the data every single time. So if I was to go ahead and say, try to submit these two time entries, let's see what happens. So this is one of my common problems with my organization is I continue to work on tasks that have already passed their estimated hours. So now if I continue to try work on these tasks, I will get this error. This is an example of our validation rule in action. And we have so many validation rules already built into the platform, and you're probably using a few of them on your timesheets already, but it will still trigger these validation rules on these singular time entries, right? We don't want people trying to sneak by and entering these time entries towards a project that has tasks that are overdue, and we're going to be billing Big Game Inc., and they're not going to be happy. So we still need these validation rules to be in effect. And this will also trigger, if I try to submit this timesheet, it's going to reject it. And now I'll have to have a discussion with my manager if I would like to continue forward and continue working on this project. Hopefully this will alert them that this task was running a little long and that there's changes that need to be made. So again, they can take action, ensure everything is on the path to success. Now, that being said, there will be some instances where some of the timesheet validation rules will not carry over to these time entry rules. So for example, if I was to have a validation rule on this timesheet about maximum overtime for a week, these time entries, maybe my maximum overtime for a week is 10 hours, and until I get to that 10 hours, it will not trigger. So it can't see the future. So unfortunately, not every single validation will carry over to these time entries, but there is still a list that works for both. And again, if you want to dig a little bit further and understand how this will affect your organization specifically, get in touch with your CSM and they'll be able to give you the whole demo and really dive down into your requirements specifically. But this time distribution grid isn't the only format of timesheet that can now use these time entries. We also allow it on one of our other timesheet formats, and that is the in and out timesheet. So just let me switch over to Kurt Jones here. And Kurt Jones is using in and out timesheet, and we will also be able to see his time entries in action here. Just give the system a second to realize that it's transforming into Kurt Jones. And here again, we can see this in action. So earlier I had submitted one time entry, it was approved. We also had submitted one and it is waiting for approval. So we'll look at that in action. And I can give another demo here. So I worked from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m., for example. Again, I'll be able to log this time towards specific activities. I'm just going blind here, just for the sake of entering everything. I can leave a comment, very creative of me, I know. And when I am ready to go, I can submit this one time entry. Now, as this is submitting, maybe I think, ooh, that was wrong. I actually started this a half an hour earlier. Oh boy. Fret not, we give you flexibility, just like everything else in the platform, when it comes to these time entries. So we can give you and your resources and employees the option to reopen these timesheets. Now, these options vary. So in this instance, I can say, okay, if my employee makes a mistake, they can always reopen this timesheet or time entry until it has been approved. Or maybe I can say they can always reopen their timesheets and everything on the back end will be sent to the appropriate delta. Or maybe I say, I don't want my employees to ever reopen these timesheets. Again, the options are there. In this instance, we have given Kurt Jones the approval to reopen this entry until it has been approved, so he can go ahead and reopen and adjust everything as necessary. And once all these time entries have been submitted for approval, there's a little bit of a different approval process. So like I said before, we kind of have this bifurcation where timesheets will go probably to admin or payroll, and then these time entries will go elsewhere. And they will still, though, all be housed on the same tab. And this is going to be located on our costing tab. So here now we will see we actually have two different ways to view our time. We have the traditional timesheet tab, and most of you are probably very familiar with this tab, and you can drill down a little bit deeper and understand exactly what is happening with all your timesheets. But now we will have these time entries separate, right? They're separate entities. We do not want people getting confused about time entries and timesheets. So now we have them totally separated so there is no confusion. And then again, here you can drill down into any of these timesheets from a specific period. So for example, if we see Kurt Jones, we're going to see a very familiar page right here, and we can see exactly which of these timesheets had time entries submitted on them. And then from there, we can go ahead and approve or reject these time entries. And now, since we are billing on the daily basis, or maybe the hourly basis, as soon as we get these time entries for approval, we are going to want to make sure they get where they need to go. And we can do this through our time workbench. So our time workbench is very flexible. And now we've added a few different ways to sort through all this information. So kind of a workflow that we find that works best for people is sorting through this by time entry approval status, because most likely you are going to be sending out things that have been approved. So because we want the time that's been approved that's going to be billed. So once we have that filter applied, we'll be able to see any of these approved time entry statuses. Again, we can also search by timesheet, but we're just focused on that daily information. I'm a project manager. I want to get billing for this information. And we can also export or search by exported status. So if it's not been exported, obviously that means it hasn't been billed. So we can search for all of our not billed information. And then if we want to do billing for a specific user or a specific project, again, we have those filters available. And from here, once I find all the information that I need to export, I can create that export and we can send that off to any platform in our ecosystem. So just a couple examples that we have right away, JD Edwards, Oracle, PeopleSoft, all have those built-in plugins, but there are so many other options we have when it comes to getting your data where it needs to go. And even if you're using your own homebrew, there is a very good chance that we will be able to work with you and find a way to get that data again where it needs to go. And if all else, we always have old trusty CSV to make sure this information is compatible with everything else in your organization. Now, we know desktop is one primary way that everyone's going to be logging their time, but we also wanted to make sure that, well, these changes were universal. So we also have updated our mobile app to accommodate these time entries. So just give me 1 second while I switch my screen around here. So our Replicon now allows you to have these time entries and time entry approvals from wherever you are. So if I hop on over to my timesheet, we will be able to see that I actually have these time distribution grids available to me. And what's really cool here now too is we also have these suggestions on the bottom. So we can see actually the time I just entered on the desktop is already available to me here on my mobile app. And it's actually going to give me new suggestions for time and projects that I might have been working on. And if this was the case or it's something similar, I can go ahead, click here, make any adjustments if necessary, enter my time entries, and just like we saw before, I'll be able to select what time entries I look to submit, and these will be, again, sent off to my manager or approver or whoever may be getting this information. And same process for approvers. They'll get a notification being via push notification or an email, and I can drill on down into my inbox and see, we do have one of these time entries waiting for me here. I can fetch these entries, approve or reject as necessary. I can drill down a little bit deeper and understand what happened with it. But again, we're just giving you total control over every single one of these entries. So that was one of the big changes that we made in the platform. We really find that this is going to help a lot of organizations that need to do that daily billing or just break down their time a little bit more in depth than they were doing previously. So that's one of the really neat new features that we have going on. But that is not all. We're going to dive into a couple more new enhancements that we have within our platform. And one of those will actually be with time off. So depending on your organization, I know many organizations are currently using time off, and we just wanted to make this process streamlined for everyone. So there's a couple new enhancements that we made. A lot of these are a little bit more low-key. They're not quite as flashy as we saw with our timesheet, but they are still so helpful. So one of those, for example, will be if you don't actually have any time to book off, you will not get the option. You will not see submit for approval. This page will just be kind of a reminder that you need to accrue that vacation balance if you don't have any allowed to you. Now, similarly, we have different types of leave, and oftentimes when you're booking leave, you're going to be wanting to book multiple days. And previously there was a couple different dialog boxes that would pop up and it would become confusing. So now we've really simplified it. We've limited the amount of dialogue that pops up when you're booking time off. And if you have the option, for example, we can only take full days for vacation, but if I change this over to sick, we can see I have half days and partial days. We can actually log a start time and the number of hours. And we have validation rules in place to make sure everything is now lining up. So you're not going to get any of these wonky time off requests that leave you scratching your head. Everything now is going to be strictly controlled within our platform to ensure that there are no irregularities and everything operates so smoothly for every single person involved. And we've also made a few enhancements with how our projects work. One of those requests that we got quite often was for mass edits. And maybe, for example, I am a project manager and I am leaving the organization or something like that, right? And now we need to get these projects edited so that they can go under new management. Now we can see every project that I have assigned to me, and we can go to this mass edit page, and we can make a single sweeping change for all of these projects. So no longer do we have to drill into every single project and make the applicable changes. Everything can be adjusted with just a couple of clicks. So this is a huge quality of life improvement for so many organizations. Especially we find that we have a lot of organizations that have more projects than we could have ever imagined. So this is just to make it so simple for every single person involved. And on top of these project changes, we also do now allow you to have differentiating identifiers within these projects. So previously with Replicon, all the projects were individually identified by their project name. Now, again, like we just said, there's some organizations that have thousands of projects, and invariably there might be more than one project called dashboarding, and we don't want this to conflict with each other, and you have to dig through a million different dashboarding projects. And many times there was platforms that did not differentiate by name, they differentiated by code. So now we are going to allow you to have that option to differentiate by name or code, and that's going to be done on our projects page here. So once we go to project settings, we will see that now we do have an option that does not allow project names, project codes, or projects names and codes. So you have these options, and we'll see right now, I cannot choose do not allow duplicate project codes because I don't have a project code on every single project. So again, just depending on how your organization is operating, you will have these options to really customize how this field works. And similarly, we wanted you to be able to easily identify people in your organization. And if you have a million employees, there is the option, or not option, but opportunity or chance that you might have more than one user with the same name. Now, initially, our platform will differentiate this by their login name, but let's say you are using SSO to log in. And that is going to identify you by a long string of characters. And that is not so useful for a manager who is trying to decide, okay, I need Curtis Dohaniuk on this project, but I don't know which is which. So now we allow you to set custom names that really allow you to easily differentiate who's who. So maybe I have a nickname. We could change this to Kurt, or we could add my department. We could say Kurt Dohaniuk Curtis, webinar guy. So we have options so we can create these differentiators within our platform so we can easily identify who is who and who is going to go on specific projects, tasks, etc. We also wanted to make it really easy for you to allocate all of this time information too. So for example, previously, it was difficult to select activities, especially again, organization have many activities. So we can batch select activities, we can deselect all, and we really give you that option for allocating these activities in a way that makes sense. And on top of that, we are also enhancing the way that roles and permissions work. So within our roles and permissions, previously you could restrict access based on location, but let's say, for example, one of our resources changed locations. This did not account for that. So this made our system confused, but no longer. So now we can actually restrict by user's location. So now whatever location I am, I will only be able to view that costing information, for example, or payroll information for users in my locale. So again, we are just ensuring that all of these changes are really allowing you to manage this platform in a way that makes sense for your organization and evolve with any of the changes that are happening within our globe right now, because there's a lot that are happening and we just want to make sure our platform is keeping up with every single one of these. So I'm going to hop back into our demo. That is a kind of a quick, little bit more in-depth overview. I know that's a juxtaposition, but we don't have so much to cover today. So it was a little bit more relaxed. We could dive into these changes a little bit deeper. And yeah, at the end, I did have some questions that popped up. We'll be able to dig into those a little bit deeper and hopefully demonstrate how everything works in action. So we'll just do a quick recap of everything we saw today. We'll find off with the Q&A session. So as you all know, Replicon has so many benefits. We can help you decrease costing and revenue leakages, increase resource utilization, decrease administrative overhead. There are so many benefits to our platform. And what is so amazing is that we are not only giving you all these benefits, but we are constantly evolving and growing with you. And we really do listen to what you are valued clients are telling us. So we want to grow and evolve with you. We want you to succeed. We want Replicon. We want everyone to succeed. We want the globe to succeed. So that is our goal, is to make everyone successful. And we have a couple of examples of that in action. Not all of you withholding, but before we had this 300 employee consulting firm and they used manual spreadsheets. I know, gasp, it's hard to imagine that that was everyone at one point, and this was not at all flexible. And this made it difficult to track and manage their cash flows. It made billing an utter nightmare, and this ultimately delayed their billing and affected their profitability. But after implementing Replicon, they had a user-friendly interface that facilitated accurate and consistent data collection. This improved their resource management, allowed for better staffing, and created faster and more accurate billing. Now, another example is our 6,500 employee IT services firm. They had difficulty accounting for all their field-based project workforce. And they had a workforce that was in multiple locations, and they were logging time in different ways and in different spots. So this created data silos, and it just made it so difficult to get that information where it needed to go. But after implementing Replicon, well, this put a stop to all their cash flow problems. It led to accurate data. It gave them that granular detail and holistic view across their organization and created that real-time actionable data that made a difference in their organization, because no longer did they have to argue about data, wonder if it was correct or accurate. They had everything they needed to make those big decisions and trust the information they had. So as we saw today, Replicon is the comprehensive suite, and as you already know, it has so many different moving parts, and hopefully today we're able to maybe discover something that might work differently and really help you to enhance your use of our platform. We can help you with time billing, project time and costing, project resource management, as well as time and attendance. And if there is anything that you saw today that you want to dive down into a little bit deeper, get in touch with me, get in touch with your CSM, and we will be happy. Yeah, I want to thank you all so much for joining me today. It's really nice to see the Replicon family supporting each other, and I really do appreciate your time because I know how valuable it is. So I think we'll call it for now, but again, if there's anything you want to follow up with, just drop me a line at any time, or your CSM a line, or call us. Numbers there on the bottom. But thank you so much for joining. I hope you're all staying happy, staying healthy. Take care and enjoy the rest of your day.